Welcome to Film Tech and Finance, where we explore the cutting-edge technology and financial strategies driving the film industry today.
Welcome to Film Tech and Finance by Kovanis, the show where we explore the intersection of filmmaking, technology, and the future of global investment. I'm your host, Konstantinos Kovanis, and today we're diving into a conversation that goes beyond business, into impact, sustainability, and the role media plays in shaping a better world. Today's guest is a pioneer in climate innovation and storytelling, someone who has built a platform that connects brands, media, and audiences around solutions for a more sustainable future. Today, I'm joined with Josh Dorfman, founder and CEO of Supercool and co-founder and chief marketing officer at Planted. Josh has spent years at the forefront of sustainability, working with major brands and media companies to tell powerful climate stories that actually drive change. Throughout Supercool, he's redefined how content culture and climate intersects, helping businesses not only communicate their impact, but scale it. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how media and storytelling influences climate action, the business opportunity behind sustainability, and what filmmakers, creators, and investors need to understand about the climate economy. Hello, Josh.
Hi, great to be here.
Nice. Thanks for being in our show. So I did a little research about you, your company, and your history, I would say. So you tell us a little bit about what you do right now and actually the field you're working on with sustainability and what exactly are you doing?
Yeah, largely I work in the realm of what I would say climate technology innovation. I am currently a co-founder and now chief marketing officer of a company called Planted. This is a company we started 5 years ago with the idea of could we come up with a way to remove carbon from the atmosphere where it's a problem and put it somewhere where it actually could have utility, be useful, and high performant. So we grow this fast growing grass, grows like 10 times faster than trees. It has a very strong biomass, so we can turn that into building materials. And we invented a factory that has no smokestack. So we pull all this carbon from the atmosphere. We turn it into something useful. We sell it to home builders, and home builders use it for walls and sequester carbon from the atmosphere. So I work on Planted. I run Supercool. It's a media company really shining a spotlight on companies similar to Planted, climate technology companies, but beyond. It doesn't necessarily have to be technology and sometimes cities, but really with this value proposition of climate solutions are here. They perform really well. They boost the bottom line, either drive profits, cut costs, and improve our quality of life at the same time so that we can build a better future, meaning solving climate change doesn't have to be about sacrifice. It can actually be about building something better than today.
Amazing. Yeah, that was actually a question I was going to ask you. Most people see climate as a crisis. You see it as an opportunity, I see here, right? What are they missing? What don't they understand? Because a lot of people are afraid. They're afraid that it's going to cost them too much. It's not worth it. It's not, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right? What would you say about that?
Well, I mean, of course, it's understandable. People feel that we've overshot. We've used too much. We've burned too much carbon as we've go about building our economy and running our daily lives. And since we've used too much, we've burned too much carbon. The reaction is that, we probably have to do less, right? We probably have to cut back. We probably have to sacrifice in order to actually get back to some balance. And that's just simply not true. There are alternatives to all the actions that actually burn fossil fuels, right? Whether that's in a factory where then almost every factory in the world uses a lot of heat, whether you're making pet food or steel, so much of what we need of our emissions come from, just making the stuff that we use in our daily lives or to build our civilization. That can be fixed. Obviously, how we get around, the cars that we drive, that can be fixed. We don't have to burn carbon to get around anymore. We don't necessarily need to burn fossil fuels in our home for heat and cooling or using natural gas. We don't need to do that to heat water anymore. There's all these ways to get rid of fossil fuels and still live exceptionally well. So it's a false kind of narrative and a false belief that just takes on face value that we must suffer and change things in a very dramatically bad way to fix a problem. When really what we're talking about is how do we eliminate burning fossil fuels? How do we pull carbon out of the atmosphere where it's a problem and put it somewhere else where it's useful? Because carbon is the foundation. It's the building block of life. It's just in the wrong place. We just need to take it out and put it somewhere where we can put it to good use.
Nice. Amazing. So a little information about Planted. You said it's a facility. It's a factory that you're building. And pretty much help us understand a little bit. So you work with farmers that plant this now, or they have replaced their crops with that specific material, with the specific plant, what you said?
Yeah, I mean, this started as a wild research and development enterprise journey to figure out. I mean, really, we started with the question, could we find something that grew much faster than trees, use photosynthesis just like trees to absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and then turn that into something useful that we could sell? Right? Could we actually make money for taking carbon out of the atmosphere? We tested industrial hemp. We tested bamboo. We tested lots and lots of different types of waste crops, whether that's corn stovers, the corn stalk, or looking at rice husks. I mean, you name it. And through all of that R&D and through just being really scrappy, turning over every stone, talking to anyone who had a lead for us, eventually we honed in on a fast growing perennial grass, right? It grows naturally every year. It can get to 20, 30 feet tall. And once it's established, it's coming up, every single year. But to do that, we had to figure out how to do it ourselves because there is no entrenched supply chain. It's not like you call someone up like, hey, I'll take 10,000 tons of corn, please. It's just, there's no one to call. And so that meant figuring out some really challenging things. We had to create our own tissue culture lab so we can actually replicate this grass very quickly, get it into, small planters, and then get those planters into our commercial greenhouses so we can get those little tiny plants with enough vigor and energy in them to then transplant them. Yeah, like you were asking, to farmers in North Carolina, some in Virginia. We're getting ready to expand further throughout the Southeast. We started with tobacco farmers who are converting from this, crop that's been around for millennia to a climate crop, to now a 21st century crop meant to help solve 21st century problems in a very exciting way.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, I would never think that, neurotechnology, we all think about, something being built or plastic, something in the factory. But this is amazing. You're actually using natural products to build it. How are they reacting? How are farmers? Are they accepting this, or do they think it's something that it's, out of the realm right now? Because, as you said, most of them are used to. I come from a little town in Pennsylvania, and there we had corn farms, right, everywhere. Like everyone was corn crops. Are they willing? Are they open to this kind of?
Of course, it's a process. I would say there is openness, but we take the process of building relationships with farmers in the farming community really seriously. We know that we don't want to be viewed as a flash in the pan. We're here to do this for the long term. We want to be viewed as a stable long-term partner. So while, one of our company models is move fast and fix things, we recognize that in order to do that, we still, we're operating in communities with people who are taking risk alongside us. Time you're establishing a new crop and doing that on hundreds of acres, that's a risk. So we have some early adopters, farmers who were excited, wanted to go first, wanted to help prove the business case. And in what I've experienced and now have learned to be true is that the farmers all know each other. They all talk. Word spreads fast. If someone's having success with a crop, other farmers are going to hear about it. In North Carolina, there are extension programs from NC State where people are hired to bring knowledge from the state university system, the agricultural system, out to farmers. That's actually how we met our director of agriculture. She was in one of those roles, and we liked her so much. She was helping us kind of connect in with farmers. And we said, hey, Janelle, what do you think? Would you like to come, run this program with us internally? She's a PhD in, she's an agronomist. So she's a soil scientist, perfect for what we need. So yeah, farmers are gravitating, steadily toward what we're doing. And it's just very exciting to see that we have a strong value proposition for them that they like, because this is a way to do something that is both economically and environmentally sustainable. Farmers like that. And they also know that the generations coming up, whether it's their children or their grandchildren, that matters to them a great deal as well. And what probably the biggest thing I've seen farmers wrestle with and be concerned with, as so many are aging up and getting close to retirement age, is can they keep their farms productive, right? They don't necessarily want to put solar panels on them or sell out for residential development and sell their land. They want to see it stay in productive agricultural use. And so hopefully we present a path that is viable for them.
I mean, I'm not an expert on the field. Is this something that the government can support you guys? Or because, how sometimes with farmers, they get in the middle and they pretty much help out with, with the crops and everything. Is that something that your specific product, I would say, is that something like the government could support you guys and help you expand this?
We're having those conversations with different agencies in the government. It's not 100% clear how that's going to manifest, but certainly the government governments, federal government, SDA, are very interested in not only supporting farmers, but also really supporting rural economies. And so, one, operating, the farmers, obviously, this is the cornerstone of a rural economy, but our factory is also in a rural part of the state of North Carolina. And so it's really a story about bringing innovation to new kinds of geographies, people into those kinds of really cool 21st century jobs, whether on the agricultural side of our company or on the production technology, in the manufacturing plant. So we continue to have those conversations. It's unclear ultimately how it nets out, but we think there's potential there.
Nice. And then how is the market on the other side seeing this product? So developers or constructing companies, are they open to changing their existing product, I would say, on how they build a house with your product?
What we have found is that there's a lot of interest, and we've been very fortunate to build a strong relationship with a company called D.R. Horton, the largest home builder in America. They build 1 out of every 7 homes. And so we've been working with D.R. Horton almost since the founding of our company, just probably 7 or 8 months after the company was started. We raised a seed round back in 2021. We raised a couple $1 million, and coming out of that, some of the investors that we knew connected us to D.R. Horton, and we started to build a relationship. And so that's now progressing to a point where we have an order from D.R. Horton for about 10 million of our structural panels that you nail to the 2x4s when you're building homes. That's a really big order.
Wow.
And
congratulations.
Thank you. And so what that enables beyond revenue, it enables the ability for a young company to build credibility with a structural building product and really showing the market that, yes, this is something that you can trust and you can build with. The biggest builder in America is building with it. So that's a big part of our go-to-market. We have lots of other companies that we're in different states of development with, who are testing our product, looking at it for different industries. Certainly for home building, we're also seeing a nice response with furniture, where our product does really nicely. And then we're going to develop other products. And so our technology, our production technology is very flexible. And what I mean by that is, if you're going to build a panel for a wall, so like the wall sheathing, as it's called, that's a panel that's roughly 5/8 inches thick, right? If you're going to do the subfloor, so the floor, that you put your rug on or whatever, your carpet towel, that's about 3/4 inch thick. The same machine that we're building that can do 5/8 can do 3/4 inch, and it can actually be tuned to do 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches. You can get actually to doing structural beams, right? So you could not only replace the panels, you could replace the 2x4s that you nail the panels to build a house. You could build all of that timber could be replaced with grass over time. And that enables us to have a number of relationships that we're working on with companies of all sizes.
Is there any specific benefit of this product besides sustainability compared to what exists right now? You said replacing a 2x4 with this. Is there any other benefits? Like, is it structural better? Is there anything else that it would make somebody want to replace their existing, let's say, 2x4 with this?
Well, there's 3 performance benefits depending on the type of product that we're making out of our material. So when you're making those panels in places that are very humid, like in the South and Southeast, where most of the home building in America is happening today, moisture resistance is really important for that building material. It's often exposed for some amount of time on a job site while that house is being built. If it rains or that you can have problems. So our material is more moisture resistant than the legacy materials from wood that it replaces. It's certainly stronger. Strength is not necessarily in and of itself that builders are looking for in that it just needs to be strong enough basically to meet code. No one necessarily needs to pay for more strength to build the way they're building today. And it's very important to us that we've designed products that actually do install exactly how builders build today. So we recognize we could build a stronger panel, but you could really see that in 2x4s. And the reason why we can get to a stronger panel is because when you have or I should say an engineered 2x4, but when you have a just plywood or oriented strand board, which has replaced plywood, which is, just chipped wood that gets oriented and it's strong enough to build a house. It's not a great product. It's kind of a crappy product, but it's strong enough that it's good enough to meet code. It's cheap. That's what everybody builds with. Well, when you're doing that, when you're chipping wood and you're pressing it together, you have to use a fair amount of resin, but you try and compress, you're trying to use that glue, press the thing down. There's more space for moisture to get into than our panel, because we can slice our grass so thin and still keep the structural integrity of the fiber that we can compress far more fibers. And so there's very little area, there's very little air, little gaps in there that moisture could work its way into. That also has strength benefits. And the thing that I would say as well is that we believe we're still doing more testing before we make real assertive claims in the market, that there may be a fire retardant story as well. But that's not a claim yet that we're actually, necessarily attaching to our product just yet. But we do see some evidence that certainly may be a benefit too.
Okay, nice. Now, you said there's only one manufacturing facility right now. Is there any plans to build more to cover the whole market if needed?
It can go in a number of different ways. And what I mean by that is we also invented a production technology that is different than how the industry operates today. If I mentioned oriented strand board or plywood, but the materials, the panels that we use to build houses today, most of those materials come from mills, industrial scale mills that are the size of small towns. They are hundreds of acres. They are enormous. And inside the factory, you'll find this massive press, right? That's going to press down and have enough pressure to actually take all this wood and turn it into a panel. It can be 8 stories tall, 4 above ground, 4 below ground. Imagine all the reinforced steel concrete that has to go into that factory to be able to have machines that big to have enough volume to go through. The hundreds of millions of dollars that go into building that factory. The ginormous smokestacks on the roof where you're using trees, and people are like, well, you're using trees. I mean, they store carbon. Yes, but to dry out those trees, I mean, they're like 50% water by the time they get to the factory. You got to use a lot of heat to dry them out, and then you're sending that carbon right back into the atmosphere. We avoid all of that. We have, we built a technology. It's a modular machine that's about 140 feet long. It has all the components that would be in that modern mill, but we've shrunken them down. We've electrified it. So you plug it in. There is no smokestack. And 140 feet later, through this press that we built, that we invented, it's probably the first press built in America, at least certainly in the 21st century, you get to our materials at the other end, the 4x8 panel I mentioned as a start. With that said, when we think about where can we put that line, we can put that line in any warehouse in America practically, as long as it's energized and has enough energy. That gives us a lot of flexibility to think about the size of our factories, where we put our factories. Can we be close to where homes are going to be built? Can we shrink the supply chain so we can take cost and carbon emissions out of the supply chain by just being very clever of how we actually do our whole vertically integrated process from farm to factory? Even have some thoughts, because I started this company with 2 guys from SpaceX, and they're insane and brilliant and genius. We even have thoughts today, and we're starting to think through a process of, could we actually bring the factory to the farm? In other words, could we have modular machines that we're cutting and slicing and right in the field that's going through machines and getting turned into building materials, and you effectively compress the supply chain down to zero, right? Like all of that is in our long-term strategic thinking right now.
Wow. So it's amazing, because you're not only thinking sustainable, as you said, not only for the product, but also the process, right? That's amazing. I mean, I know it's hard because right now you're in the beginning phase, I'm guessing, right? You just one factory and you're building it. But yeah, this would be amazing, because then you would change the industry. And I mean, towards better. It sounds like, at least right now. Now, how does it stand like with your competition? Is it a lot more expensive for this product? Or if you compare it to what exists right now, is that something that we would be deterrent for somebody to use?
Yeah, as we come to market, or our path and the way that we view coming to market is being price competitive. And so it's not only about being price competitive in terms of like where is engineered wood today or oriented strand board today. The problem that a big problem that the industry has with using these types of materials is that the prices fluctuate madly. It's very difficult to forecast your business and to understand what your costs are going to be when these commodity timber products are just going up and down in pricing. And it just creating that uncertainty is a huge pain point for industry. Since we are vertically integrated and control our whole supply chain, we can also offer industry stable pricing. So it also unlocks potentially different kinds of contracts and agreements that we can get into that have additional value for builders in the construction industry if they feel that there's more resilience in the supply chain, more pricing certainty, more pricing stability. It's getting to price competitiveness. It's table stakes. No one's going to pay more for our product, certainly not because it's sustainable. I mean, maybe 10 people, or I don't know, maybe they live in I know you're in LA and like Silver Lake or Topanga Canyon or, Santa Cruz, or where I used to live in Asheville, North Carolina, but not a lot. And we're trying to go after the big, the biggest parts of the market.
So the other thing now, I want to ask you a few things about the other side of your business, Supercool, which is, it sounds nice, super cool. So you work with sustainability there also, and environmentally. I mean, that's what you're working on. So what exactly is it? Because it's an ecosystem, I saw. It's not just a podcast. You have different things.
Yeah, I appreciate that characterization. Supercool did start as a medium, I would say, for a certain kind of storytelling for companies like Planted that are even, let's say, further along. So I founded Planted. I was the founding CEO. I got the company off the ground, raised our first 2 funding rounds, or led them, our seed and our Series A. And then I stepped down as CEO in 2024. Recently came back as Chief Marketing Officer, which I'm very excited about since we have so much growth ahead of us. But in the interim, when I stepped down as CEO, I started looking around and asking the question, what else is happening around climate innovation? And I saw, I would say, 3 kinds of data, or three trends that I was looking at that kind of blew me away. The first was that if you look back over the last 10, 12 years, really the last decade, there's about 2,000 climate technology startups, climate tech companies that raised growth stage funding capital, like Series B, Series C, and beyond capital, private equity, they're in the public markets, what have you. Now, not all of those companies survived, but hundreds and hundreds have. And to get to that type of capital, you have to be at commercial scale or very close, meaning your climate technology that is designed to, of course, cut carbon emissions, but also find a market. Lots of these things are scaling, and they're scaling. The ones that have figured out how to scale have figured out that we have how to have a value proposition that either makes money for their customers or saves money for their customers, and all the time, in some way, improves the quality of life or the quality of the customer experience. So that, this is happening. It's out of the lab. It's not pilots anymore. And then on a global macro scale, in 2024, this was the first year that globally clean energy technology investment, now that's EVs, that's solar, that's wind, geothermal, it's grid modernization, electrification, surpassed $2 trillion for the first time. 2025 was $2.3 trillion. That's double the global investment now that's going into fossil fuels. And so, we talk about AI, and we should, and it's very important. It's very important for climate technology companies too. The AI investment, if it's roughly $500 billion or $500 billion last year, it's massive. It's less than 20% of what's going into clean energy globally. And so we don't always see that in America because there's different narratives in our media, but this is the fundamental long-term trend. And then on top of that, there's 13,000 cities. Again, I know you're in Los Angeles. Los Angeles has been a leader in this through successive mayors. 13,000 cities around the globe have climate action plans that are turning parts of their city into living laboratories for change. And so it's just really exciting. There's all this momentum. Supercool is meant to capture that momentum, really try and chronicle the companies that are at the forefront of building this, and really trying to capture and understand how are they doing it, not just what is the technology, but what is the business strategy? How do you get customers to buy? How do you have to sell? What do you talk about? What do you not talk about? And we really try and distill that so others can, one, learn from it, and then two, adopt those solutions if it's appropriate for their business or their industry.
Well, it's very interesting. Yeah, it is a gap because, I mean, I see it from my side. In the media field, there are some studios, for example, they try to adopt like technologies that's going to make it more eco-friendly as a studio. But you see, they're talking mostly about solar. Technically, they're talking about how to replace the electric aspect of it. But there's so many other things they can do. But as you said, what's widely known, people don't know about other materials that they can use and how to use that. Or with cars, for example, I mean, with these brands that came out right now and they're popular, especially like in LA here, everybody's driving an electric car. They're trying to, or those hybrid, PHEV cars, which is amazing. But yeah, it's cool. And then besides the podcast, you have, cause it's a podcast, and then you have what, newsletter, or what exactly? How can we find you? How can somebody find Supercool and be part of that?
Thank you, Constantinos. I appreciate that. So yeah, it's a weekly podcast. It's 2 newsletters. We do one called The Playbook that generally kind of follows what we're talking about on the podcast. We'll talk with a company, we'll talk with a founder, and then we'll distill, okay, what's a good example? I mean, it really depends whoever I'm talking to. This past week, we did something on passive house building, which is building, it could be homes, hospitals, high rise, but passive house is like building techniques that enable you to cut your heating and cooling by up to 80 to 90% for that building without sacrificing aesthetics, without sacrificing really anything. They're also quieter homes. You don't hear outside street noise, no bugs. Just really interesting. So we were having a conversation about that, and I was talking with an architect who has his own very successful practice in New York City. He built these stunning houses and townhomes in Brooklyn and Manhattan. And he also started the Passive House Accelerator, which now has hundreds, if not thousands, of participants learning how to build with these techniques. And one of the things that struck me, and the reason why I wanted to talk to him, because, what Michael Nguyi said, he's like, look, like when I go in to talk to a potential client, I'm asking them, would you like to have a house without bugs? Would you like to have a house where you don't hear the outside street noise? Would you like to have a house with clean 24/7 filtered air? And he's like, by the time I get to that, everyone's like, yes, right?
Where do I sign?
And he's like, I don't have to mention this weird thing called passive house, right? Which doesn't sound particularly American. I mean, it came from Germany, right? It's like, we're not passive people, right? We're like we don't want a passive house, but it's passive, meaning that it can cut your heating and cooling, which is the biggest expense in any building, by 80 to 90%, simply by building a much tighter and better building envelope. So the house actually has to do less work, right, to keep you warm or cool and comfortable. And so we dig into that type of like, well, okay, how do you sell it? Because how should people be selling this, right? You don't, like we were joking, but I don't know if you remember in the movie Fight Club, where the first rule of Fight Club is don't talk about Fight Club. So it's like the first rule of Passive House is like, don't talk about Passive House, right? Talk about everything else it does for that end, that end homeowner. Yeah.
Right. Try to sugarcoat it with something else in order for them to eat it. Yeah. It makes sense. It makes sense. And, do you have any tips for, because our podcast, Film Tech and Finance, we talk pretty much about finance because, it has to do with people understanding that sustainable doesn't mean expensive. You actually can save money, actually, the way you're talking about and how it's done. But when it comes to, were you ever involved with like the production side of it on how to produce? I mean, I know you produce a podcast, but is there anything there that you would suggest to people in the industry on how to adopt sustainability there? Is that something you have looked into it or no?
Well, we did look into it. And I think you and I talked in before we came on to do the show. I used to have a TV show I was the host of, and kind of through the host became an executive producer. Wasn't really like doing that much production, called The Lazy Environmentalist. And we shot in LA, we shot all over the country. So I was traveling around helping lazy Americans try to go green, and we would do these makeover shows, but it would be a little more business to business. So we'd be in LA, we'd find an exterminator, and the funny thing about shooting in LA is you find an exterminator. And I remember, and the actual producer was this guy, Dave Metzler, who created Queer Eye for the Straight Guy back in the day. If you remember that. So it had this makeover quality to it. So we'd find this exterminator and be like, John, don't you feel terrible? You're using all of these poisons to, kill these bugs, and you got little kids and dogs and pets running around, and there's all this poison. And he'd be like, I gotta kill the bugs, man. You don't understand. And he was so good, right? And then they'd be we'd have a break. I'm like, John, wow, you're really good on camera. And he was like, yeah, I that's not really my first time. And I remember, but this particular guy is he's like, the movie Planet of the Apes? I'm like, yeah. He's like, have you ever seen Planet of the Ape? I was like, is that a thing? He's like, oh, that's my movie, right? But everyone in LA has some something on camera, right? But we looked at it a lot, and I think where it's really evolved, and I've actually seen some production moving in this direction too, is in potentially solar, but really energy storage tied to solar. I've seen some shoots that take place on site now, and I think for particularly our show, a reality show where you might be in the Arizona desert or somewhere, where the vans or the van star quarters, whatever, those campers that are kind of traveling around there, those could double. They could have solar on the roof, they could have big batteries with them, and those batteries could help run a lot of the equipment on set. So kind of doing double duty, not just as a place to do makeup or sleep, but also now actually have an offsite, your own power generation. The storage component, because batteries are becoming so much cheaper, it's really enabling more of that opportunity. But, that's mostly what I see. Other than that, people go through a lot of stacks, a lot of junk on a set. I don't know. How do you clean that up? I still haven't figured that out.
Yeah, it's a problem. Yeah. But at least even with solar, that's something, right? There's some locations we have to use solar, because as you said, there's the desert and you can't really find electricity, or it's not very good. So yeah, that's my perspective. We use a lot of solar. I've seen that lately a lot. Now you can get solar panels so small that you can actually have it like a little suitcase and charge your camera, pretty much, and have your rig like that, which is good. Whatever we can do, right? The thing is that, some people are still, their mindset is, this doesn't make a difference. Or then the batteries cause more problems. The way you manufacture a battery. There's so many theories about this. For me, whatever we can do for the environment is good. If somebody wants to find out about Planted, that's something that somebody that has a house, or is it just for construction, or just right now for companies? Or is it somebody at retail, I would say, a person, could they contact Planted or no?
Not just yet. So that'll still take us some time to get to a place where it's more readily accessible beyond selling to, builders we're working with for their residential development. But we'll get there in time. If people, in time, I should say. We're also building some cool partnerships, like I mentioned, within the furniture industry. So we'll be announcing some things on our website soon and on our social media. So it's Planted, PLANTD. It's a hipster spelling, no E at the end, plantedmaterials.com. So yeah, not quite an opportunity just yet, but hopefully on the horizon. And then Supercool, you can find the podcast everywhere. Our website is getsuper.cool. Try to make it relatively easy for people to find us, find the pod, find the newsletter. We have a course on kind of the lessons that we've learned talking to all these founders and CEOs on how if you are in this industry in some way and you're trying to figure out how you get more people to adopt your product, whether it's a sustainable product or a climate tech solution, we've distilled all these lessons and try and make it really digestible for folks. So, we're expanding what we do in terms of product offerings. That's kind of where we are for now.
Nice. Perfect. I've researched a little bit and found a lot of things about your company and both Planted and your podcast, and pretty much that's why I said earlier an ecosystem, because you have a lot of things. But yeah, we'll definitely support, and whoever can support you, that's perfect, because you have a good cause. I'm talking about the industry. You actually have a nice cause behind you, and then you're helping people, making the environment better. That's the idea. So perfect. Yeah. We're going to have all your information. So anybody that wants to get a hold of you, or companies that would be interested in being part of your podcast, or, they're more welcome to get all the information even from us. We're going to promote it as much as we can and keep us posted. Anything you do and updates you have on both Supercool and then on the Planted side of it, or anything new, because I'm sure this industry always evolves, right? There's always something new that comes out. It's just brand new.
Yep.
You're like a pioneer in the industry anyway. So it's there's not a lot of people out there that do what you're doing, what you guys are doing.
Well, they say like any good pioneer, it takes like 10 years to become an overnight success. So we'll see.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's going to take time, but yeah, I see that you love it though. And if you don't love what you're doing, you're not going to, it's hard in that industry. It's not the mindset of a retail where, you just set up a restaurant, you just start selling. You have to prove yourself and you have to prove the technology and all that. So I understand it's kind of hard.
Yeah. Grit, resilience, picking yourself up. I think any startup is very hard. I mean, these are challenging startups because especially the path to commercialization can take a long time. But an entrepreneur who I respect once said to me, he's like, the thing about startups is you can have your best day and your worst day in the same day, every day.
Exactly. Yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense. Totally. Okay, perfect. I don't know if you want to add anything else about, finding you guys, and you covered that. And I'm sure we can find you on LinkedIn, and people can connect there with you also. As I said, again, all this information is going to be on the website, and we'll do our best to promote and help as much as we can and where we can.
Very good. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed it.
It's been an incredible conversation. Yeah. Thank you for your insight and all your information.
Thanks for joining us on Film Tech and Finance. Don't forget to follow and subscribe for more insights and updates.